if I don't charge you something, then I'm not going to get my point across.
Yeah. I mean, it's like raising a kid. Like, you're not going to take them out back and, hurt them too bad, but you want to hurt them enough to where it changes behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. If they don't care, you're not getting there.
Help me with hip hop. Let's get it right. Protect your patience. Day and night. Donna and David, the experts on your side. Help me with hip hop. Let's get it right.
So today we're going to be talking about neglecting cybersecurity and what that price tag might be, because OCR has been dropping a bunch of stuff here lately. And matter of fact, we couldn't even get caught up. It was so many of them.
We just waited.
So, yeah, it's like, okay, wait till the dust settles and then we'll batch them together. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to be talking about all these OCR things. And as always, it's not interesting really to look at, well, how much was the fine and how much was the cap? What's really interesting is what's in the cap and what failures happened for them to even have the investigation or failure in the first place, because that's where the learning takes place.
Well, and the amount of time on the cap also tells you how much work they think you've got to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it always scares people when, like, I had an email last week. Somebody said, so how long would it take for me to become compliant? I hate that question.
I know.
I was like, well, there are many factors for which I do not know. I can just tell you that typically when OCR comes in and they, help you do that because they're nice like that, it's usually 2 years. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes 1, but usually 2 years. And they're like, what?
If you stick with it.
Right.
That means you stick with it. You're actually working on it for that whole time. Not, oh yeah, I did it once a year. No, that's not it. No.
Right. So I think people are typically shocked that it takes so long, but it's a lot of work. It's not hard to do. It's just time consuming work.
Well, sometimes it's hard to do if you've got no idea of what's going on your network. It might be complicated and hard to do.
Yeah. Is it fair to say it can be complicated but not hard?
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people are like, wow, this is a lot of information. I gotta, I never thought about needing to capture it all in one place. And I'm like, well,
mm-hmm.
if we don't know where your data is and we don't know what you're doing with it, we can't make sure it's protected now, can we?
That's true.
No.
It reminds me of long ago when I was in my early 20s, I took my car in for repair and I asked the guy, I said, what do you think is wrong with the car? And so he gave me some ideas of what he thought it was. And then I asked the next stupid question, which was, well, you think this is something I can fix? and so he starts describing it. He's like, oh, it's pretty easy. You probably do it yourself. And I was like, at the time I'm thinking, I don't probably really know the difference between a dipstick and a drumstick. And you're going to, I don't think I can probably do that. You're talking about, just crack the crankcase open and just did about, no, I'm not doing that.
No. Now, I'll just open a computer and never think another thing about it, but not one of those, no.
Yeah. So when I say all that to say, when you ask the question of, well, how easy is it? That really highly depends on your skill level of what you're doing, because it was easy for him as a mechanic, not so much easy for me.
That is true.
All right. So before we dive into those stories today, let's talk about the Tri-State Boot Camp.
Yeah. I got so much to get done to get ready for that. I am, trying to figure out how to reorganize to get in additional stuff and the new stuff to include and go down rabbit holes on, because yay, why not?
Of course. in your free time.
But we hope that it's gonna be still we can manage to make entertainment and not as painful.
Mhm.
It's complicated. It's not hard, but it's painful. So we're looking forward to it. May is coming up quickly, even though it's January. May will be here before you know it. So.
Yep, sure will. But it's going to be May 13th through the 16th. So if you are responsible for your compliance program in your organization, or you're an MSP and you're trying to do it for yourself and for your clients, you probably should sign up.
And we've gotten some questions about, well, when are you doing another one? We have been doing these once a year because they take a ton of our time, and we only limit it to a small number of people so that we can give the one-on-one time. So it's not like we make a windfall on these. But with these changes coming, when we see what's happening further down the road, as far as the what does it look like on the final rule and all that, we may add another one. But right now, we don't have another one planned until next year.
Yeah.
And
it takes that long to recover.
Huh?
It takes that long to recover.
I know. We are exhausted when this is done. So, but as it stands right now, we won't do another one until next, late winter, springtime.
Yep.
So there's a chance, but we're not planning on it at all.
Right. All right. So that's the easy way of saying you better get in there because it ain't gonna happen again this year.
Yeah. And I mean, we limit the number of people, we limit everything so that we can do it the way we want to do it, not the way we have to do it to handle a vast number of people so we can make tons of money. So how do you find out about coming to the boot camp, David?
PriceSecBootCamp.com.
Or
That's where you find it.
HIPAAbootcamp.com if you don't want to deal with PriceSec.
Yeah.
Or you can go to
helpmewithhipaa.com.
HelpMeWithHIPAA.com. You can go to all those different places and get a link to get the details, sign up. And if you're a member of HIPAA for MSPs or Cardin Club, don't forget to go get your special code.
That's right. Because, we hook up our peoples.
I know. It's your secret code that gets you in for a secret price.
Yep.
All
right.
then.
So we're going to go everywhere from $10,000 up to $3 million today.
Yeah. I mean, wow.
But
Wow.
again, don't get hooked on the numbers because, it's just vanity metrics. I can assure you it'll cost them more than these numbers. But the other side of it is, okay, well, what happened? Why did it even happen at all? Because we want to stay out of the column that is those organizations that are investigated. Let's stay out of that one.
Yeah.
And we do that by understanding failures of others if we're smart. So here we go. Let's dive into the first one. This one dropped on January 7th was the day of the announcement. Elgon Information Systems.
I mean, Elgon?
That's what I'm saying. Elgon.
Yeah, not the old school Calgon, take me away. It's Elgon. Okay. All right. Proceed.
Yeah. So they had an $80,000 settlement, 3-year. Now you said earlier that the longer the term, probably the more work they have to do. So this one's a 3-year corrective action plan. And they had a ransomware attack. So
yeah, it was, so this company, they, I think they're in Massachusetts, and I love how a lot of times they have a DBA, and so you don't know who it is you're actually, but it's a company called Home Care something. I've seen a couple of different names that there's a DBA. But the thing here, and our friends over at Security Metrics, and Jen has a shirt that they give away, to folks that says, "Your ports were open, so I let myself in."
I have
I
one of
love
those.
it. I do too. I wear it all the time, and people love it. But that's what had happened here.
Mm.
And
So
we always
Jen,
talk about it. Open ports on the firewall.
Jen, send him a shirt.
Yeah, ransomware attack, but the attacker got in because open ports on the firewall.
Oh man.
And that's okay. We both know you can screw up and accidentally open things, right?
Mhm.
Because you're changing a setting and you don't realize what you're doing is affecting something else sometimes. Or you're trying to install something new and you have to open a port, test something out, then close the port. It's that close the port part that gets left out.
Yeah. Well, I know sometimes people will take a device and put it on the DMZ,
Yep.
which for those of you who don't know, it stands for demilitarized zone, but in IT, it basically means that everything's open to it. So that nothing's blocking anything. And so they do that to say, all right, if we put it on the DMZ and it functions, then we know something's blocking it inside the firewall. But like you said, are they putting things back? So take it out of the DMZ and then figure out what it is. And sometimes they don't because they're like, well, we just need it to work.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
and then other
that's,
times they'll open up ports because they want to get to something, but they won't secure the thing they're getting to. They'll do it on purpose.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of reasons your ports are open, and I let myself in.
And it could be, I mean, we are speculating some, but it could even be that they purchased something and out of the box it wasn't configured properly or something like that. So, you know, oftentimes we run into things where just because it works doesn't mean it's actually set up to be secure. So that's very different. And it's highly unfortunate that you can't see security like that, because I have conversations all the time where somebody's like, well, I don't know that I need any security because everything's working fine. I'm like, that's not, they don't go hand in hand. Yeah. Like, okay, are you saying if it's not working, you need security? I mean, you know, you should have security and it work.
Yeah, we see stories where the hackers will actually fix problems so you won't notice them.
Exactly.
Like you won't notice the hackers.
Right.
You know, or the attackers rather. Yeah. So these folks, I'm not shocked by the fact that they're getting dinged with the $80,000 and the 3-year corrective action plan.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, they had somebody in there like a week and they dropped off the ransomware note. They never caught them. They never realized anything until it was too late. And, you know, the 3 years says first they negotiated the lower rate down to $80,000 and they still have a lot of work to do. So you want to hit our quote. Each one of these will tell you basically the same thing because all but one has to do with something with ransomware and SRA.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the director, OCR director, says in this one, a HIPAA compliant risk analysis, and I say that slowly, is not only required under the law, but is also an essential step in effective cybersecurity. The best defense to cyber attacks such as hacking and ransomware is ensuring that potential risks and vulnerabilities to EPHI have been assessed.
Mm-hmm. Now, and these folks also, let's point out, I think most of these are business associates in this list. One's a covered, three covered entities, though. No, so it's 3 covered entities, how many do we have? 3 business associates and 3 covered entities. Because Solara is a covered entity. So, yeah, so we start with the 3 business associates. So all the folks that would tell us, oh, they don't, you know, go after business associates. Note to self.
Yeah. Well, also that's not even an argument. Like, what do you mean? OCR doesn't actually go after anybody.
Exactly. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right there. It's so many times we end up in those discussions, though, and I think now enough business associates have been involved in settlement agreements that's going away, that you don't hear that like we used to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first one. And we thought, wow, another ransomware SRA one. And then, like, that same day,
Yeah, I know. I was like, what? Yeah,
we got
same
another
day.
one. And
Yep, this one dropped. This one's called VPN Solutions. Of course, my ears perked up. I'm like, please don't let it be what I'm using.
Yeah, but I'm not really sure with the name, but
Yeah, I
they
wasn't
provide
either.
hosting and cloud services.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe VPN is an acronym. It doesn't stand for, virtual private network. I don't know.
Or
But,
you use a
yeah.
VPN to get to them. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. So I just thought it might be a VPN service, but thank goodness it wasn't, because, not that long ago, VPNs were all in the news about being fake and from China and all these other places. So I didn't know if this was.
Well, we got plenty of them that are
related
still
to
doing that.
some
That are
issues.
stealing it.
Yeah. They got charged $90,000, but only a 1-year corrective action plan. So they also had a ransomware attack and failure to secure patient data and implement safeguards.
Yes. So we not surprised that the SRA is involved again in a ransomware attack. So this one, though, they basically, they're like the hosting provider. So you run your EHR, for example, on their the computers in their data center, and you're basically renting them there. So when they got hit, 12 clients got hit all at the same time. And we talk often about the importance of understanding that when your business associate is hit, then it impacts multiple clients, not just you, which could then impact their ability to serve your interest, because they've got to serve their own interest along with every client that's gotten hit.
Yep.
So hit our quote here.
All right. So here we go. An accurate and thorough risk analysis is foundational to both HIPAA security rule compliance and protecting health information from cyber attacks. Failure to conduct a risk analysis leaves healthcare entities exposed to future hacking and ransomware attacks. OCR urges healthcare entities to take the necessary steps to reduce risk and vulnerabilities and safeguard PHI. So, yeah, it's
a theme.
Yeah, it's back to the whole point of having a risk analysis. It's not so that you can say you've done one. It's because if you haven't done one, then you don't know where your risks are. You probably don't even know where your data truly is and where it's going. And you don't know how to protect it. You're just kind of throwing stuff out there and hoping for the best.
And you may think you know, but if you haven't sat down and thought this through, you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And this honestly kind of outlines a bigger problem that is starting to kind of crop up within the MSP circles that I'm in, where people are saying that, no longer can an MSP come in and just do a cookie cutter solution for a client, because now we're starting to see that clients are so different from one to the other that it really becomes a conversation about, well, what is it that you really need, and where do you need it, and how are we trying to protect it, and where are we trying to protect it? And all this comes out through a risk analysis and where your data is and your risk management plan. And so you're starting to see a lot of MSPs start shifting to having more of those conversations. But the unfortunate part is most of those conversations that I'm in, people are just shrugging their shoulders. I ask the questions, they don't have the answers.
Yeah. And that's where things go off the rails right there.
Yeah. I mean, simple question, like, do you have a risk analysis? And they're like, what? Where's your data come in, flow through your practice, and end up at? In the cloud? No, that's not the answer.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge.
Yeah, you got create, receive, maintain, transmit. You got to know all of those.
Right.
Where it be, where it going, who can touch it.
So it almost becomes like we're coming in with just a penicillin shot because we hopefully will hit most stuff, but we don't know if we're going to get everything or not.
Yep, that's about right. So that brings us then to the next one, USR Holdings. And these people do medical records and billing support. Things went wrong there differently. The same but different, David. The same but different.
Yeah.
But the points that they were making here on this one had to do with not just the risk analysis, but other things that often get overlooked in the security rule, like proactive monitoring, information system activity review. And when you see somebody say, well, IT checks it once a month, or IT checks it, quarterly, no, you're not going to see things, but at least that's better than nothing, But if you don't have someone actually looking at the logs, which is not exciting, or a tool looking at the logs, then nothing's going to improve. Right. You're not going to catch it. So this one, the attacker was able to get in and delete an entire database of PHI after being in there for several months. And ouch, that one's hurt. And that meant they had no backup. So their backup wasn't handled. They couldn't restore it. They literally lost medical records. They're not happy when that happens. So this one had a slightly different, but not actually different statement from OCR. Hit it, brother.
So the quote is, healthcare entities need to ensure that they are proactively monitoring who's in their information systems, and they have backup procedures in place to be able to create exact copies of the EPHI they hold in the event that health information is held for ransom or deleted. Effective cybersecurity includes being able to restore access to EPHI following a cyber attack so there are no interruptions in the provision of healthcare.
Well, and they make that point of they want you to be able to have the incident response plan, which is based on your risk analysis, and you get back up and running because that impacts patient care. So,
right,
there we are again. Now, the next one, though, this one, I think a lot went down that we won't be able to know. Because this is, I don't know how to pronounce it. Solera.
Yeah, I'm going to say Solara.
Yeah. So they are direct-to-patient distributors of glucose monitors, all the diabetic patient supplies, and they bill for insurance. So if you're billing for insurance, then that makes you a covered entity. They had 8 employees hit by a phishing attack that had a lot of patients involved in it, getting data snatched. And then they sent out notifications late. They didn't do timely notifications, but they apparently figured it out somehow and did the notifications, but then they had to file another breach report that said, by the by, of those notifications, 1,531 of them went to the wrong address.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Now, I tell the story of where a client asked, can't we just send these breach notifications on a postcard?
Yeah, if you want to have another breach notification.
Yeah, I was like, well, you might as well just follow that up with a letter letting them know you had a second breach because we mailed it with a postcard. So it's a similar scenario, but clearly there were issues with understanding the requirements, maybe. So they didn't do it timely. When they did it, didn't really have themselves organized. And there was no SRA.
No.
Yeah. So this one, kind of like a covered entity, but most people would think of them as a business associate, but they are actually providing direct patient care. So then we get, now when did this one? This one came out on January 14th, right? Now we talk about USR Holdings, how much they have to pay and what their corrective action plan is.
That one was $337,750 with a 2-year cap.
Yeah, so you got 2 on the 7th, 1 on the 8th, then they hit us again on the 14th. But this one,
yeah, this is the big one.
Yeah.
$3 million in a 2-year cap.
Yeah, you still got a 2-year cap to get it down to $3 million. That's why I'm like, there's a big story there. I don't know what the story is, but I think it's like you slapped them twice.
Well, there's 2 breaches.
I know one breach caused another breach, but it shouldn't have. So $3 million, we don't see that often.
Yeah. I'm going to say somebody wasn't playing ball the way they wanted them to.
Yeah, well, yeah, they were already under investigation from the first one when they had to come back for the second one, and you don't double dip in the middle of an investigation. That doesn't go well. So that's probably what it was. And then if you're like, it's no big deal, that's also not going to go well. So let's see what she says here.
Yeah, this is on Solara. So this one, she says, cyber attacks have skyrocketed exponentially in recent years. Effective cybersecurity requires identifying potential risk and vulnerabilities to health information and implementing effective security measures to protect against them. Healthcare entities that fail to address identified cybersecurity issues leave themselves vulnerable to cyber attacks. OCR urges healthcare entities to prioritize securing their information systems and take all necessary steps to reduce and prevent cyber attacks and safeguard PHI. Can I get a amen?
I mean, it's the same story. So they had no timely, no SRA. They were purchased shortly after this too. So, you can't go look them up anymore. We're now Adapt Health, I think is what they are now. So this is where you never want to be. You don't want to be in, I had something this big, didn't notice it, then had to do the notifications, didn't do them on time, and then made a fatal error in doing them and had to do another notice. And all along, I've never done the actual work that needed to be done. Yeah, because 2-year cap with a $3 million, there's a lot there. Yeah. So we may come back and revisit that. We'll have to see. I'm going to have to dig into that one deeper, but we got so many here. It's like I couldn't keep up and read all of that. Plus the, changes to the security rule. I'm like, at some point it gets boring. Even for me.
Yeah. Well, the next one here though is one of the patient's right of access issues that we've had. So that's still an ongoing thing that they're focusing on that never went away. And so Memorial Healthcare System, they got hit with a $60,000 penalty. Yeah, not a settlement, penalty for failure to provide patient their timely access to the medical records. So it's the Right of Access Initiative.
Yeah, it apparently took 9 months for the patient to get their records. So they had a baby while they were waiting on it. But, this is not the first visit. Memorial Health System in Florida has had several visits with OCR. So it's like they just wanted this one to go away. And $60,000, way cheaper for them than, dealing with the attorneys and all the stuff trying to fight it. So they just said, here, take our money. We'll try to do better.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but she did, make it the same point over and over and over with these cases. It's the same point in right of access and now SRA. Over and over and over, we're going to hear the same point. How we got there is going to be different, but the point they're making is always going to be the same. So let's see what the same point was.
A patient's right to timely access their own health information is well established by the HIPAA privacy rule. Healthcare entities must be responsive to their patients' requests for the medical records. Patients should not have to file a complaint with OCR as a necessary step before receiving their records. Yeah. They shouldn't.
Yeah. So that brings us to the last one.
So
which is, we've looped back around to where we go, but covered entity. And what do we got on this one? How much is it? It's
this one's
came
cheap.
out,
This one's only
on the 15th too. So
yeah. So we had 2 drop the same day again. But yeah, this one's only 10 grand. So yeah, I mean, I might even be able to start a check for this one, but
you won't be happy about it.
Oh no.
And then the 2-year corrective action plan will be way more than that.
Oh yeah. So your 2-year cap is going to be a lot more. 10,000, we've said before, they get these numbers because, they have an equation they use and they look at financials and all that kind of stuff. So it's not that, oh, it's 10,000, so it must not be bad. That's not really how they do that. But
well, they want compliance. They want to protect the data. So they do look at the financials as well as the community and the impact to the community, and try to find a happy middle ground of, if I don't charge you something, then I'm not going to get my point across.
Yeah. I mean, it's like raising a kid. Like, you're not going to take them out back and, hurt them too bad, but you want to hurt them enough to where it changes behavior.
Yeah. If they don't care, you're not getting there. So this one was a ransomware attack. 15,298 patients were encrypted and exfiltrated. Ouch. So they got that data, those patients' data out there. We know it. So she did, though, end this statement. This would be the last statement that comes out, and then she's gone, and we'll get a new OCR director. So go ahead and share how she ended this process.
So her final quote: one of the first steps in implementing effective cybersecurity in healthcare is assessing the potential risk and vulnerabilities to EPHI. A failure to conduct a HIPAA risk analysis will leave a healthcare entity vulnerable to cyber attacks, such as hacking and ransomware, which is bad for our healthcare system and bad for patients. We can and must do better.
I think that's a great closing argument.
Yeah. I think maybe that's what I'm going to start putting on all my quotes. Do better. Here's your proposal. Do better.
We can and must do better.
Yeah. I mean, really, there's so many issues that you and I see it, because we're more at the mid and smaller practices. So not so much the hospital systems, but there's so many of them that I see that just aren't doing anything. And it's not necessarily that they can't do everything as much as they can do something. They just don't.
Right. So, another thing, I spoke last week to a group of, an MGMA group practice managers, and trying to explain to them, this has been done wrong forever, and they're finally giving up on saying, look, figure this out. We're not going to give you very, very specific requirements, and now you're going to have them. Yep. So they it brought the temperature up as far as getting them to see This is not news. And, I told all of them, I've talked about all these topics with you guys. I come once a year and present to you guys, every other year, something like that. And these topics are important ones. So why, is it happening? It's because you didn't change your behavior when I told you over and over you should change your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But most of them were like, what do I do when I go back to the office and I'm told no? And so it's educating the leadership is still our problem. It's absolutely still the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, I saw this, somebody was talking about it on LinkedIn, but they said that the time has come where medical providers, offices, practices, they can no longer look at IT and cybersecurity as a cost center. They have to look at it as an investment.
Yeah.
Now, I agree with that, but changing that culture and that viewpoint is going to be difficult.
Well, they went too many years and were able to let it go, and there was no repercussions, and there still isn't until you're hit.
Mm-hmm. It's very much like your health. Like you can ignore it, and you can ignore it for a long time, but at some point it catches up with you, and when it does, it's usually pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
And cybersecurity can be the same way. You can ignore it for a long time. You might be fine, quote unquote fine, but when it catches up to you, it's going to be bad.
Yeah, maybe we should come up with an analogy thing where, if you're not doing your risk analysis, that's like being a 2-pack a day smoker and not considering it.
Yeah. Or like you hear people go, oh, my grandmother smoked 5 packs a day and she lived to be 99.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How many of her friends were there with her?
Yeah. And then my grandpa, he never smoked and died at 60.
Yeah. So what I always like about Jackie Gleason's story, it's the same thing, Yeah. But if you're going to ignore this, it will catch up with you in a way that, where your body gets to decide on its own a lot of things, your network doesn't.
Yep.
It's somebody coming after you.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll keep working on ways and trying to get that there. But in the meantime, get educated. We are these SRAs. It's not something that you can keep playing around with anymore.
Yeah.
Stop poking the bear.
Mm-hmm. What really concerns me is if they ever come out with the you have to report. Like if you know, like you're a third party vendor and somebody's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, that you have to report. If they ever do that, oh my goodness.
Yeah, but they're not gonna. That would create too many business relationships problem. I think it would bring everything down again a different way.
Yeah, I think it would too. But hopefully, it's never going to be something that's even on the chopping block to even look at.
I concur.
So, all right.
Then.
Well, there you have it, folks. There's what is that? Six different ones that drop in a week and a day. Yeah. So 7 days, 6 things drop. I mean, wow.
Wow.
Boom, 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 boom. Hopefully, we won't be talking about you later in the year or next year. So if all of this makes you a little bit uncomfortable, then you should be going to price8bootcamp.com and signing up, because that means you got work to do. You can do better, and you must.
Yeah. We had a lot of people come immediately and talk to us about last week. Like, tell me more about that club and boot camp. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Go team.
All right, folks. That is our show for today. Thanks for listening. Be sure to share this out, because a lot of people need to hear it. And that'll be your way of helping us out. Appreciate it. And joining us again next week when we talk more about all this project stuff. And remember, for Donna and myself, HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.